All right. Good morning and good afternoon, good evening, maybe good very, very early morning or middle of the night to wherever you are. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to the second day of the Zero Carbon Conference 2023. I am Kaija Saramäki and I am representing Karelia University of Applied Sciences and Enoskuunet Association, and together with the Nagano Prefectural Government and University of Eastern Finland, we are organizing this Zero Carbon Conference for the second time now. Yesterday we had a great day. We had presentations about mitigation, about how to minimize CO2 emissions and things related to that. And today we will go into adaptation to see how we can adapt to climate change as it is already happening and what are the actions that can be done. We have about 900 registrations to the conference from approximately 40 countries, and it's very nice to see that we have a broad variety of participants listening and having thoughts in their head about zero carbon issues. The presenters today will present a variety of, we will have a variety of experts, including students, of course, and the geographical scope of the presenters is also broad. We have presenters from Latin America, from Africa, from Europe, and from Asia. We will start with a short speech from Irmeli Mustalahti. She's a professor at the University of Eastern Finland, and she works on the issues of natural resource governance, and she's also the vice chairman of the board for Enoskuunet Association. She has a PhD in participatory forest practices and impacts, and she has worked in research projects in Finland, in Europe, and around the world. And I will share my screen now. Her speech is recorded. And let's hope that I can show it the way that we want to show it. We have had some technical difficulties, so please bear with us if we have some more still.
Hello, everyone.
I will share my screen still. I will wait for it to show. Can you see the screen? I think so.
Yes, we see.
Hello, everyone. My name is Irmeli Mustalahti, and I'm Professor of Natural Resources Governance in University of Eastern Finland, and also the Vice Chair of Enoskuunet Association here in Finland. And also I have been involved in a youth research project called All Youth here in Finland, which we have been studying the issues related to climate activism, youth participation in the society, youth participation in governance. And what we have learned during this 6-year study is that youth role is very important in our societies. Youth and so-called intergenerational co-learning between the young people and the adults, it brings the new knowledge and understanding related to multiple crises in our society. Once we talk about the climate governance, you might think that the youth, while they are demonstrative and sometimes participating quite aggressively towards the climate actions, you might think that it's the negative, but how we understand it, it's a very important way how the youth have been increasing the discussion over the climate crisis. Their actions during the international negotiations and during their active role in the various movements, as Friday movement here in the demonstration in the various countries in Europe, it's have increased also our adults our decision maker knowledge, what are the values and interests of the young generations in the future. Young generation, they have a new type of knowledge and understanding through their schools, but also various voluntary activities and hobbies. And they understand the sustainability, climate change, and the environmental degradation in the various ways, and of course in the differently sometimes than adults and the decision makers. That is the important way how they are impacting the decision making through their own understanding, but also while they are involved in the society and the governance and the decision making, they also create the new skills to be part actively in the society. And once they are the adults and the decision makers, they are able to make responsible decisions which have a very long-lasting impact in our societies. Thank you.
That was Irmeli Mustalahti from the University of Eastern Finland and Enoskolet Association. Very important issues on how to or how important it is for the youth to participate in the climate governance, in the natural resource governance. The next speaker we have is Sari Koivula. She will shortly present to you about climate issues here in North Karelia. That's the region where we are located here. And Sari has a PhD in forestry, in diversity of ground vegetation, in managed boreal forests in relation to the properties of the tree stand and site. And she works as a climate and forest expert at the Regional Council of North Karelia. And I will share my screen again. And there we go.
I was asked to tell you some. Hello, I am Sari Koivula and I am working as in Regional Council as a forest and climate expert. I was asked to tell you something about this climate change and North Karelia issue. To answer this question, how to fight against climate change, mitigation and loss of biodiversity, in North Karelia, we see that we need to decrease consumption, decrease emissions, and sustain and increase carbon storages and sequestration. So we need all these three elements to be able to answer and handle that question. And why it is so important to decrease the emissions? It's simply that no carbon sink is able to save the situation alone. If we look at this picture of Harald Mauser from European Forest Institute, there is on EU level the carbon sink and emissions, greenhouse gas emissions. And when we are looking at the carbon sinks, we see that we are talking about millions of tons. But when we are looking at emissions, we are talking about billions of tons. So that means that the gap is so huge that by no means we have no possibilities to have the amount of carbon sinks that should be needed. What is then decreased consumption? How we do it? We need energy saving and efficiency, very current question at the moment, at least in EU and in Finland, in a cold country. We need to increase possibilities and also thinking of circular economy. That means, of course, that the products need to be made to last and repair. And that one thing that it is quite difficult actually is this fashion for decades or years, not for 1 year or 1 week, but we need to create a fashion that is current more than 1 year. And And then decrease of emissions. Of course, we need to increase the amount of renewable energy, production and use of it. We need to get rid of fossil materials, and we need to have more clean production. And then this sustain and increase carbon sequestration and storages, that is something that we are actually really good in North Karelia. We have climate smart forestry, and also nature management has been introduced to forest management. That means that we can increase the amount of dead and decaying wood, standing and fallen trees. We can increase amount of deciduous tree species. We can add living spaces for game. We can protect valuable biotopes and habitats by leaving protection areas around them, etc. So we know how to do it. The implementation is still in phase, but we are forwarding, enhancing it. Then we should re-establish where destroyed. For example, if some valuable habitat has been destroyed by accident or whatever reason, it should be established, restored. And then restoration and protection where needed is of course really important. We need to protect valuable habitats, valuable biotopes, valuable species and the environment. But it also means that we should protect the right issues. If we need living spaces for herb-rich species that live on rich forest areas, there is no use to increase protection of dry forest sites, for example. Then what mitigation adaptation in North Karelia means, how we do it. We created climate and energy program aiming for 2030. It was published in 2021, and last year we published implementation plan for the program. The aim is huge and challenging. We need to reduce the emissions by 30% to 2030, comparing to year 2007. This means really huge amounts of emission reduction, from almost 1,700 kilotons of CO2 equivalent to 3,500. And even if we would be able to put the biggest sources of emissions to zero, it's still not enough. So it means that we need to be able to reduce throughout the whole system. We need actions in all sectors. In the next slide there are a table of those emission resources. Implementation plan then contains actions for mitigation and adaptation, both of these, and it is monitored and renewed yearly. Some examples: enhancement of distributed energy production, of course based on renewable energy. It should be easier for those who are willing to do it. We should have investments. To that we need to support them by public money, and we need to make it easier to apply permission for this distributed energy production. Then we need investments on low emission traffic solutions. This is really crucial for our region because we are a region of long distances and poor public transportation. That means that we really need private cars, and the only way to reduce emissions in those are like moving to biogas or electricity. Then sustaining carbon storages and sequestration and maintaining biodiversity by the means that I presented previously. We are pushing green cities, more carbon sequestration, more trees, more green to cities, so that also they take part to this task. We are aiming for climate resilient construction, buildings and living. This goes for example, wood construction, but also that these buildings are using renewable energy People who are living there have their services near them so that they don't, for example, need to travel to have for a doctor or go shopping, and in that way we can reduce the emissions of traffic, for example. Then resource efficient business and sustainable nature management. This means, of course, resource efficiency and recycling. And then these greenhouse gas emissions that I promised to show you. The biggest ones here are transport in roads, traffic on roads, then agriculture and work machinery. All of these are important, they are crucial for our region, so we really need low emission solutions. There is no question, the solution is not to stop agriculture. We need food production, we need possibilities to live also on rural areas. So we just have to figure out how to do it with low emissions. And same goes to these roads and work machines. For work machines like tractors or trucks, biogas is one good solution. And then the biggest changes, reductions since 2007 has been done in consumption energy, heating with electricity, and then railway transportation. So also positive development has been done. So far we are on the level about 35% reduction. There's a lot to do still. And then I was asked to tell you something how youth are taking into account in our climate change work, fighting against climate change. Youth organizations were invited to participate to the establishment of this climate and energy program, and it was presented in high schools and other occasions involving young people. We had really good discussions, and we added those issues that they thought are important to that program and also to implementation plan. And the role of youth, to our point of view, is crucial because you are the decision makers of tomorrow. It's important that you participate to public discussion and you are that you have memberships and influencing in different councils and NGOs, and then we need to create straight conservation possibilities with decision makers of today and youth. And University of Eastern Finland is doing quite nice work in that, and I think that you have a presentation from there. And then youth is important also in consumption now and in the future. You as well, we all, but especially you, because you are active in social media and things like that. It's important to influence by example in real life and in social media. And we all need to get away from one day and cheap fashion that is usually purchased from internet, and reducing transportation and packaging materials, etc. Eating food is important part. Are we eating at McDonald's or other fast food, or are we making the food ourselves from the raw materials produced near us? And what is our attitude to disposable goods? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sari, from the Regional Council of North Karelia, about what we have been doing for climate issues here in North Karelia in the past years or so. We will then next go through a little bit about how this conference goes. In the conference, we might not have time for questions and answers, and most likely we will not. And we have decided that all the questions and answers will be given in Padlet. And you can find the link for Padlet in the chat box. And also for those who are in YouTube, it is in the description of the recording or the live stream as well. And once I switch to the Padlet, it will have the QR code also, so you can scan it from there while I'm explaining how the Padlet works. All of you are invited to post questions to the speakers, and also the speakers will be coming there during the conference day and within the week or so from the conference itself to reply to the questions as well. The link is now in the chat box. You can go there yourself also, but I will share my screen and show you how it works in case you are not familiar with Padlet. So this is what it looks like. It's an online system, and also you don't need to log into it if you don't want to. But if you want us and want everybody else to see what kind of comments you have written, you can log in into the system using your Google account, your Microsoft account, or your Apple account. By default, it most likely will go to the anonymous version, and if you want to switch to logging in, you can click the top right here. It has some kind of an alien ant or something there as a means for anonymity. So you can go there and then you can choose to sign up with your Google or your Microsoft or your Apple account, or you can sign up with an email. And then from here, you can see whether you are logged in or not. And the only thing that it affects is that if you are logged in, when you write something here, it will show your name also. If you are not logged in, it will show you as anonymous. You can comment to each of the speakers separately here for any of these, just as a text. I will write here something, and then just enter, and it will show there. You can edit your own comments, and you can also delete your own comments, but not the other people's comments. So you can tick the 3 dots there, and you can either edit or delete your own comments. Very simple, very clear. And remember to post your comments in English. And also, if you need to scan the QR code, if you have your camera with you just at this very moment, you can scan it from there as well. But the link is also available in YouTube and in the chat box here in Zoom. Next, we will go on with the program. And our next speaker, or our first or the keynote speaker for today, is Felix Kalaba from the Copperbelt University in Zambia, in southern part of Africa. He's an associate professor there in environment and development at the Copperbelt University, and chief technical advisor for EnviroSmart Solutions in Zambia. He's also been a lead author for the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC 6th assessment. I will be sharing Felix's presentation from my computer, and Felix will be going through it. So I will switch my own camera off and share his presentation, and then we can start in a bit.
Thank you so much, everyone, for spending time to participate in this conference, and I'll be sharing my presentation. So just wait for it to be uploaded. Thank you so much. So thank you so much again for the wonderful presentation overview of who I am and just so that we can get to know each other. Next slide, please. Zambia has been experiencing climate change impacts, and these have been diverse. This includes droughts, they include floods, high temperatures. So these impacts have been negatively affecting the agriculture sector in Zambia, and largely because the agriculture sector in Zambia is largely dependent on rainfall. It is rain-fed agriculture. It is interesting to note that within sub-Saharan Africa, 95% of agriculture is actually rain-fed. So if it is rain-fed, then it means that it is highly affected by the negative fluctuation of, that climate change brings about. The government has demonstrated commitments to address the impacts of climate change, and this can be seen in the National Determined Contributions, the NDCs. So Zambia has pledged to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 25% using internal resources and or 47% by 2030. The 47% comes in if there's substantial support from other partners. And we see government's commitment in trying to address issues within the agriculture sector. Now, why? It's because the agriculture sector is impacted by climate change, but on the other side, you find that the agriculture sector is also a driver of deforestation and forest degradation, and has been identified as one of the key drivers. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
It seems to be a bit slow.
Okay. I already mentioned that in Zambia, agriculture is largely rain-fed, meaning that you depend on rainfall. And it is important to note that we have the rain season, which starts around about November, running up to just about March. But with climate change, you find that the rains are coming slightly later and ending early. And most of the agriculture is not mechanized. And most of the farmers depend on a government program where government provides subsidies under the food input supply program. And this food input supply program, you find that the main crops that are grown under this program is maize and soybean. But it is important just to note that now there is an interest in growing other crops. Now, agriculture is largely conventional. It's conventional agriculture, conventional farming, with the common crops being maize, sorghum, millet, sweet potatoes, beans, cassava, as well as other horticultural crops. Now, if you were to look at the importance of the agriculture sector to the national, to the nation in terms of the global, the GDP, you find that the agriculture sector contributes 9% to the GDP, and is also a main source of income for rural households. And the statistics show that in Zambia, over 70 to 80% of the food that is available is actually grown by small-scale farmers and not necessarily commercial farmers. Next slide, please. So as we think of agriculture, obviously I've said that largely it's conventional agriculture that is being practiced, which leads to the destruction of soil structure. It leads to soil erosion, disturbing as well as death of soil organisms. With conventional agriculture, in the long run, this leads to reduction in yields. Why? Because the fertility of the soil is actually lost. The other thing that you notice with conventional farming in Zambia is increase in occurrence of pests, which affect the crops. There's also destruction of forests, where shifting cultivation or shifting slash and burn is practiced. And as it is practiced, it contributes to emission of greenhouse gases and worsens the impacts of climate change. So it is important to note that climate change has got its own negative impacts, but the activities that human beings are involved in even including in the agriculture sector, are actually exacerbating or increasing the negative impacts of climate change. Next slide, please. So what is the summary of these impacts of climate change that we are currently experiencing in Zambia? One, declining rainfall in the rainfall and reducing rainfall season. Now, I've already alluded to the fact that most of the agriculture here in Zambia and sub-Saharan Africa is dependent on rainfall. So it's rain-fed seasonal agriculture. As a result, the declining rainfall, is having negative impacts. The other challenge is the frequent drought and dry spells. So there are increasing droughts in the region as well as dry spells. Now, with dry spells, you will find that you have the normal rains, but they just delay in terms of the days that you have rain. So you find that you have a dry spell at a critical period. For example, plants are supposed to germinate, and during that period of time, maybe there's a dry spell, and the rain only for maybe a couple of weeks later. So this leads to the death of the seeds. So we have frequent floods, and this year we had several floods, and agricultural fields washed away. There's increasing in temperature, occurrence of insects. Ultimately, these are leading to reduction in crop yield and production of maize. Now, maize is a very important crop because it gives us, it's a staple crop and it gives us a staple food. So therefore, the reduction in the production of maize is actually having a lot of negative impacts where food security is concerned. And ultimately, there is also the reduction in the GDP and household welfare. So meaning that even the income that households get is actually reduced. Next slide, please. So declining rainfall season, which I've already alluded to, the duration of the rain season has reduced over the years. The climatic conditions have become now less predictable. And there's very little early warning systems that are available. And the production period has therefore reduced. High-yielding varieties, such as late-maturing maize varieties, however, can not grow in some areas. So you find that some of the high-yielding varieties can no longer grow in some areas, or they can only grow in other areas. Now, I'm providing this background so that we can see the urgency of looking at practices that will help us adapt to climate change. Next slide, please. With drought and dry spells, one thing that you just need to emphasize is that the availability of water in plants affect the plant physiological processes. So once you have a dry spell, not necessarily a drought, but a dry spell, what will happen is that the physiological processes within the plant are going to be affected. And then this, therefore, consequently leads to the reduction of production, so production reduces. Droughts affect availability also of underground water, and farms that are running on boreholes for irrigation are affected, and these are largely large-scale farmers. Rivers also are drying up, and this is affecting animals, where you see an increase in disease burden for maybe some diseases. And this also affects pasture and fodder quality as well as quantity. So the fodder which animals are supposed to feed on is reducing in quantity as well as in quality. And by quality, we mean the nutritional content. Why? Because of the physiological processes that are actually being affected. Next slide, please. With floods, I must mention that with floods, what we're experiencing mainly is the washing away of crops. And this is happening at a great cost to the farmers because they would have prepared the land, they would have spent a lot of money in taking care of the crops, and when floods come, they end up being negatively affected. And then this leads to soil degradation, and then it also leads to causes death of livestock. Next slide, please. So from floods, we move on to increasing temperatures, where increasing temperatures are affecting also the physiological processes of plants, as plants tend to wither animals are also negatively affected, and they're also stressed, and the parasites also flourish in warmer conditions. So you find that the conditions are becoming now favorable for the parasites to flourish. Now this leads us to the next slide. Next slide, please, where we see the occurrence of pests. Where with the occurrence of pests, this is linked to temperature. As temperatures increase, weeds, insects, parasites, also, and other diseases will thrive under these conditions, and controlling them becomes a challenge. We have seen new diseases and insects that have been recorded and have become very difficult to control. One example is the 4 armyworms that are ravaging the country Zambia. There's also another disease called Tuta absoluta. So this is one of the diseases that hit tomato fields. Wind also contributes to the spread, obviously, of pests. Wind also damages, the farm infrastructure as well as crops, and the cost of production has therefore increased due to the number of inputs that are needed. For you to control pests, you need to buy a lot of insecticide and pesticides, and this is actually now adding cost to agriculture. Okay, next slide, please. So this therefore now leads to reduction of crop yield, and I must mention that all these negative impacts of climate change are leading to the reduction of crop yields and also reducing food security as well as nutritional security. Next slide, please. As these reductions are seen, we therefore now also see a reduction in the contribution to GDP, contribution to the income of the nation. Next slide, please. As production reduces, the contribution of GDP also reduces. Employment creation is affected. Now, this is important because we're looking at a country where unemployment levels are very high. Household income generation reduces, and household welfare also reduces. So in view of all these things that are happening, how then is adaptation taking place within the agriculture sector? Next slide, please. In terms of the agriculture sector, there are a number of interventions that are being put in place. One of them is the promotion of agroecology. Now, with agroecological principles that are being promoted, we're trying to look at how can we use seeds that are used maybe to the region. How can we ensure that we reduce on tillage? So the agroecology is where we engage in various practices that try to maximize on the current environment and reduces on the use of pests. Then the other thing that is being promoted is climate smart agriculture. Now, with climate smart agriculture, we are basically looking at what are the current agricultural conditions that we have, and then you start saying what mechanisms can be put in place to help adapt to climate change. So a number of interventions are at the moment taking place in Zambia, and we see a number of firms that are supporting this among development agencies. So they are all promoting climate smart agriculture. And then there is also promotion of agroforestry. Now, agroforestry, we are looking at agroforestry practices, and with agroforestry, we are trying to have more of an integrated system where you retain agroforestry tree species. Now, agroforestry is now contributing both to adaptation and mitigation. One of the tree species that is being promoted is Phaidebia albida, which is referred to as a fertilizer tree species. And this is actually helping in improving the soil. But not only that, there's also now the integration of animals on agricultural land so as to ensure that the manure from animals can then be used in agricultural fields. Then the other thing that is also being promoted now is organic farming. Now, with organic farming, this is being done on a small scale. Now, one of the things is that when you look at organic farming, the biggest challenge that a number of people are having is actually labor costs, because with organic farming, it has with its own, it comes up with its own costs. So I must mention that with these methods that I've just mentioned, with climate smart agriculture, it is very integrated. Also, cropland, you're looking at livestock, and you're looking at forests and fisheries, which are more like integrated. But all these methods that are now being promoted even at the national level are more looking at an integrated way, so that agriculture is no longer seen as an independent area, but you need to integrate it with livestock, with forests, and so many other things. Now, this is seen as a way of actually building the resilience of agricultural systems, which presently are very vulnerable to the negative impacts of climate change. And these adaptation methods that are being promoted are quite helpful in that. Next slide, please. Now, what you see here, there is just one of the fields where these practices are being promoted. Now, this is in the southern part of the country where they are experiencing a lot of droughts, reduced precipitation. So what you do in this case, if you can see from that picture, they have planted the orchard, planted some oranges there, and you plant them in such a way that you maximize in the hole, so as to maximize, the water. So you do a little bit of mulching. You want to maximize the water. So one thing that we need to draw lessons from this picture is just the fact that different conditions will require maybe maximizing on water. In other places that are prone to flood, you may need to actually open up the area so that the water easily drains. Now, in view of the negative impacts of climate change, as well as the methods of adaptation within the agriculture sector that are being promoted, what are some of the conclusions that we can draw? Next slide, please, as we conclude. We need to first of all understand that various climatic stresses are happening and hitting the agriculture sector. So there are places where there are droughts, there are places where there are floods, there are places where there's high temperature, there are places where there's even low temperature. So understanding the different climatic stresses as well as the projected risks for the future are critical to inform the agriculture sector and agricultural practices. We need to promote adaptation interventions, and these adaptation interventions must be in line with the various climatic stresses that are being experienced in different areas. In the agriculture sector, we need to strengthen early warning systems, because for adaptation to work effectively, there's need for early warning systems to be a lot of investment in early warning systems, which at the moment are quite poor. There's need to diversify livelihoods. The majority of the people depend obviously on agriculture and on the single crops, the maize or maybe the soy, but we need to diversify the crops that are grown, as well as look at diversification of livelihoods. Last but not least, we need to maximize income that is generated from the agriculture sector. And one way of maximizing this is to promote value addition of agricultural products. At the moment, a number of farmers that are negatively experiencing the impacts of climate change are getting very little even from the agriculture due to the prominence of crop failure. So one of the key things that will be required is to ensure that moving forward, there's a lot of value addition so that the income that is generated is more to support livelihoods. Now, there is a cycle. We need to appreciate that with the reduction of income comes unsustainable agricultural practices as people try by all means to maximize on what they want. So it is important that agricultural production and the agriculture sector benefits from value addition, which at the moment is poor. And I must say that moving forward, the future of agriculture in sub-Saharan Africa will not just be in production, but to be about post-harvest handling and value addition. With those words, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Felix, for your very insightful presentation. As you can see and hear, things are very different in different countries. And it seems at the moment that there is an extra microphone on at the moment. Coming a little bit of background noise there. Okay. Yes. So thank you, Felix, very much for your presentation and a viewpoint to how to adapt to climate change. And especially for us who are not living in the southern part of Africa in those conditions, it's interesting to see how different it is from the effects of climate change that we have here in Finland or in Europe or northern part of the world and so on. And just a reminder about the Padlet for everybody that you can post questions in Padlet, and Felix will be replying to the questions there. Thank you, Felix. Then we have the next speaker in line, talking from his own point of view about his own company. We have Satoshi Miyajima. He's a co-owner or the owner of the Miyajima Brewery Company, making locally rooted sake in Nagano. So please go ahead, Satoshi. The floor is yours.
Thank you for your introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Satoshi Miyajima. I'm the owner of locally rooted Japanese sake brewery, Miyajima Brewery Company. Our brand name is Shinano Nishiki. Shinano means Nagano Prefecture. Nishiki means the great nature. Our company was established in 1911. Then please listen to my presentation. Rice cultivation with emphasis on soil cultivation. Not using chemicals on farmland as much as possible. 20th century farming developed with the use of many agrochemicals and synthetic fertilizers to increase productivity. However, it has not been fully discovered how the chemicals and the chemical residues that have flowed out are affecting the ecosystems of microorganisms and more. If we adopt pesticide-free farming to control the usage of agrochemicals and synthetic fertilizers as much as possible, it can maintain a safe and secure water system and protect abundant, diverse ecosystems of farmland and its surroundings, leading to the control of greenhouse gases. Organic farming decomposes fertilizers more gradually compared to the case of using synthetic ones. Therefore, the active use of organic fertilizers can retain the fixed carbon in soil for a long time and gradually release dinitrogen monoxide, which has several hundred times more greenhouse effects than carbon dioxide. Also, restricting the usage of agriculture's chemicals and synthetic fertilizers can maintain the diversity around farmland. It's known that carbon can be retained in many ways, and that organisms fix carbon in their bodies. If chemical substances are little as possible in agricultural land to maintain the biodiversity of the soil and its surroundings, such action becomes a concrete measure to climate change. Sake brewing using low polish rice. Stop over-polishing rice. Since the end of the 20th century, a food crisis has been warned along with a vasting population. After entering the 21st century, the dry weather, abnormal growth of grasshoppers, and other situations due to climate change have brought about the food crisis. Going forward, sake brewing will struggle with a growing food demand in the raw material procurement stage. We are on the verge of a situation where we can't brew sake without first securing rice as food. As a result of the rice polishing technology has been highly developed, a census value fixed highly polished rice sake is the best. Sake that uses a lot of energy to polish rice and has high food wastage has become popular. It's time to try sake brewing with raw polished rice to appreciate Earth's blessing. However, we should keep in mind that tasty sake also can be made of low polished rice that is a similar polishing rate to that of regular grain of rice that we eat. The value of being junmai sake, not using brewing alcohol. Brewing alcohol is obtained by distillation after brewing the syrup. That is what is left after taking sugar from sugar cane. In Japan, we add heat to the crude alcohol that was transported all the way from Brazil and other countries for continuous distillation, making it almost flavorless and tasteless. Brewing alcohol can make sake taste clean up and bring out the yeast aroma in ginjo sake. However, we always have to keep in mind that brewing alcohol is produced by creating a huge burden on the global environment. With global food shortage now, the price of brewing alcohol has already risen significantly. It is assumed that the price of brewing alcohol will jump moreover when the carbon tax is introduced. But before that, I think many breweries should think over the environmental road and choose to make junmai sake without using brewing alcohol. Developing regional food culture. The flavor of junmai sake, which is made by not adjusting the taste with brewing alcohol, changes largely depending on the year's climate. This is the best part about Japanese sake because you can taste the climate. And it is also the value of local sake that makes you feel the taste of the land. The experience of tasting junmai sake evokes a sense of climate and can let a person resonate and deepen their understanding of the regional food culture, which contributes to the development of the regional culture and region. Locally rooted sake brewery. Local production for local consumption and self-sufficiency. I believe brewers should be the indigenous sake brewery rooted in the land we live in. Sake that is loved by the locals, and it is not dependent on unified values such as industrial products. As a member of a local community, we can continuously contribute by brewing sake using local produce and by enjoying the sake with the local foods made by the locals. I believe that the local production for local consumption and self-sufficiency that can circulate the regional economy as well as minimizing the transport energy by working together with local farmers is the basis of resilience that can sustain the region for the future. Our effort for label-free bottles, thinking for social environmental load. Japanese sake is a symbol of Japanese food culture. Today, the labels are big and variously expressed as like an artwork. However, such labels consume biomass resources and require plastic film for protection and takes a huge energy load in the cleansing process for reusing bottles. At present, the Shinano Nishiki bottles have actively used a label-free approach. It wraps a label around the shoulder of the bottle instead of the bottom. This type of label saves resources and can be peeled off easily, which greatly reduces the load of cleansing process for reuse. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Miyajima. It was very interesting to hear about sake and how it can be done also in a sustainable way. Very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will then move forward and come to Finland for a bit. We have one of our entrepreneurs here in North Karelia, Anni Korhonen. She's the hostess of a well-being guest house, and she's also a chef, and she's also a musician playing kantele, and an organic farmer. And she will tell about her company's sustainability issues. And I will again share Anni's slides. Here we go.
Great. And I'm very pleased to speak you about this very, very important issue and this how we all can do something about climate change and how we can adaptation us to climate change. And please, I remember you all also that there's this that you are free to ask me anything in there in other section, but I start with my show now. So I'm located in Finland, in North Europe, in Scandinavia. And in Finland, I located in east part of Finland. And now we have 4 seasons in Finland, and now we live in winter. In very, very deep winter, we have now about 50 centimeters snow on the ground and approximately like a -10 degrees. A few words about me, who I am. So Kaija already said that I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a kantele player, so it means that I play this Finnish national instrument called kantele. Then I am very deep in with Finnish food culture. So I'm a food ambassador in our area, and I'm very keen on Finnish and Karelian and east part of Finnish food culture, and that is what I do the most in my guest house. That I do and give the people the most best and unique experience with food. Next slide, please. So our guest house, few words, our guest house, before I go deep with the adaptation in travel industry. So we are family-run business, founded in 1991 by my parents, Anita and Heikki. And I bought the farm, forest, and this guest house from my parents 2012. So I have running now the business over 10 years. My background is that I'm studying in Savonia and I was studying about the restaurant management, and then I've been working as a restaurant manager in very many places and so, and then I came back here like 13 years ago, but I have been working around the world and around Finland. And for me, why I came back here to run the family business, it's my values. They have been follow me since I left home, and I realized that without this very like a value-based life, I don't feel myself as me. So I needed to quit my very good job in Koli, because I felt myself that I don't follow my values. But now when I'm doing this here in Finland with my guest house, I can be, I am sure that I can follow my values. I can share my values to our guests, and that is always have been very important to me, that I can explain to our guests that how I do things and what are my values and why I want to do this. Saving the world is for all of us. It is the most important thing, and how I can save the world is that I can serve the food which is organic, farmed. I can serve the food which is foraging from the forest. I can serve the food which is very it's based on our own culture. So it's
3
very
minutes.
important. Sorry?
3 minutes left.
3 minutes.
3
Okay,
minutes
then
left.
next slide. Then to the subject, how we can adaptation here nowadays, our climate change effects. And I need to say that where we see the most the climate change is our winter. It's going to be shorter and it's going to be less snow and so on. So now what we have already done is that we have reduced the skiing programs, and we are offering for our visitors different kind of doing with the snow. So it is only with the skiing. It's also that we are giving the people a possibility to doing something else also in the nature with the snow. And what is the very important thing, because we are still here in the purest country in the world, that we are starting thinking regenerative thinking. That is the most important thing to us, that we can have also this pureness and beautiness for the next generations. And I also wanna tell our visitors that how they can be involved doing things, that we don't just entrepreneurs don't make the things for the environmental things, that also the tourists will do the things. And there is two things for me which are very important now, that I can do very good things for environmental issues and also sustainable. That we have this program for all the tourist sector, which is run by Visit Finland. So we have this Sustainable Travel Finland program, and it is very good for all our entrepreneurs. And also I have one of the signature in Glasgow Declaration. So they are very good actions through it. But for me and the other entrepreneurs who are, for example, making the signature in this Glasgow Declaration, that we also wanted that people, our tourists, our guests, are doing things when they are travel, that they are doing the things that they are sustainable. And for me, it's always been very important that when we do this sustainable tourism, that we are very honest with ourselves. We are ourselves, and we don't do any things that are not good for us too. So I'm very keen on to hear you. What are you thinking about tourism and flying, and how you are going to do your, for example, holidays in the future, and what you are thinking about, what you want to do and feel and see when you travel to other countries and other cultures. You can show the last, and please contact me also through social media. I'm very pleased if you contact me, for example, in LinkedIn or in Instagram. And special, our Instagram is in English, so you will understand something, but don't hesitate also join us our Facebooks, because there is some Finnish, but there's never be late to learn some Finnish. So thank you for all, and I will very keen on to see your questions. Bye.
Thank you, Anni, very much for your presentation about how you are dealing with sustainability in your own company, and like it's a matter of culture and also something that is inside of you. So thank you very much. We will move forward now then to another part of the world, or actually two parts of the world. Our next presentation is from Marianela Pepe. She's from Argentina, and from a joint presentation with Brigitta Gunawan. She's from Indonesia. So we have from two different countries a joint presentation. Unfortunately, they are not able to participate, but we will show their presentation, and they are both members of the Earth Echo Youth Leadership Council. And I will first start the presentation here in the background, and then I will share my screen.
Hi, my name is Marianela Pepe. I'm from Argentina. I'm part of Earth Echoes YLC with Brigitta Gunawan. The YLC, or Earth Echoes Youth Leadership Council, is a team of young environmental leaders who play a key role leading Earth Echoes education programs while developing and implementing campaigns to mobilize young people worldwide to protect our ocean planet. In this case, I'm going to talk about my own country, Argentina, and I'm going to talk about tourism in Argentina. So Argentina is a huge country. Its extension goes across many different ecosystems. So we could say that climate change affects the country as a whole in many different ways. Some parts are getting drier, while the north, while floods are getting more common in the Mesopotamia area. Extreme weather conditions, coastal erosion, and desertification in the Patagonia, etc. We're currently on summer holidays, so one of the greatest topics among Argentinians today is where are they going on vacation? Historically, most populated cities have been Buenos Aires, Córdoba, Rosario, where people try to escape from their routines and extreme heat conditions produced by the heat island phenomena. In their places to nearby cities like Mar del Plata, Gualeguaychú, Miramar de Cenusa, etc. All of these places surrounded by big bodies of water such as the ocean or the Paraná River. So quite after internet and social media exploded, people from the Patagonia started noticing that their places were receiving more and more people who decided to start spending their summer holidays in the northern Patagonia, as there were extreme heat waves were also becoming an issue during this summer in the Atlantic coast. So hotels started getting fuller, and of course, things start happening. Many tourists aren't aware of how to take care of these places, and it's a hard work letting tourists know that what they're doing might be good or might be catastrophically wrong for the area. So as forest fires started increasing due to tourists not knowing how and where to make fire, signalization increased as well about fire risk, about how to make a good fire, and also we started teaching people, not only tourists but also locals, how to take care of their own environment, and also spreading the news with social media outreach about how to take care of the places where you go on vacation. And now I'm going to leave you with Brigitta, who's going to talk about Indonesia.
Hi everyone, my name is Brigitta. I come from Indonesia, which is colored in red in this map. So as we know, climate change is affecting the globe in so many different ways. And in context for Indonesia, surface temperatures are increasing per decade about 0.2 to 0.3 degrees Celsius. And patterns are changing where there are different parts of the country experiencing hotter weather and also wetter seasons. And this also affects the risks of floods and droughts in different parts of the country. It impacts the biodiversity, for example, declines in fish larvae. There is also coral bleaching, habitat loss, and it is also impacting human health. And there are also more frequent forest fires if there are more droughts, and of course, stronger El Nino and La Nina events, which are affecting the food production and also hunger. So what have I been seeing as an ocean advocate to adapt to climate change? Well, I can speak from my own experiences, where I have also spoken at the United Nations Ocean Conference about ocean climate solutions. So as a background, I have launched 30 by 30 Indonesia, which is a movement to protect at least 30% of the global ocean by 2030. And it is a global goal, which also aims to protect 30% of the global land as well. And this specifically is a project that focuses on education, policy advocacy, and habitat restoration. So for my own experiences, 30 by 30 Indonesia has garnered this attention of Bali's provincial government and also reached over 400 pictures of support last year. And these are only some of the pictures from both youth and adults alike. And as you can see, these focus on outreach efforts by the community. And what can we take from this? Well, it is important to note that climate adaptation is a community effort as well. We can do so many things. We can start right here, right now, from wherever we are. And these are just two examples right here. So I launched 2 events back in 2022. One was a celebration for Earth Day, which was to plant 30 reef structures on the ocean floor in Bali, which is called the 30 by 30 Coral Garden. Whereas we also planted 200 mangroves in Jakarta, and I led a group of high school students to do this on the coast of Jakarta. Education itself is really important because we know climate adaptation starts at its core from education. And these are some pictures of policy advocacy. They're actually from the Bali's provincial government website, as they have supported the movement of 30 by 30. And here are also some more pictures of restoration projects. And as you can see, there are lots of different ages that are joining from diverse backgrounds, and they're all committed and have come together to take action for climate adaptation. And this specifically focuses on ocean climate, nature-based solutions. So now we want you to take part as well. And maybe you're wondering, how can I start my journey? Well, we have the solution for you. Marianella and I are personally inviting you to join Gen Z. All you have to do is head to joingenz.org. It is a global platform where you can share your passion for networking, learning, and take collective action together as a community from wherever you are around the globe. So you can build your profile and create connections and also amplify your impact. So we invite you to just watch this quick video and we'll see you on Gen Z.
We are Gen Z.
We are Gen Z.
Thank you so much for listening to our presentation today, and we really hope you have learned something from this presentation and session, and we will see you again in Gen Z. Thank you so much.
Okay, a virtual thank you to Marianella and to Brigitta. A very nice presentation and a very good call for action also for all of you to participate in. And I especially liked the fact that there were also mentioned about how the community needs to be taken in the climate actions, and how the community is also important. So not only individual people, but also communities, as well as governments and international organizations, of course, but taking the community perspective is also very important. We will then move forward again with our program. And like you have maybe noticed, we have had some technical difficulties today with the presentations, and it has been difficult for some to share their presentations. And also with the next presentation, we were having Leonardo David Hidalgo Ortega from Peru I will present him, but unfortunately the video wouldn't play for us when we were testing it. So we will upload his video to YouTube, Enno YouTube today. And also in Enno YouTube, you can find some additional videos from yesterday as well, which were not shown during the conference itself. But Leonardo is a high school student from Agustin de Hipona in Peru, and he has represented his school in different competitions in maths and in scientific fairs. And he has been working together with one of his teachers, Liliana Valencia, for his presentation. But like I said, unfortunately, we are not able to show the presentation because it wouldn't start playing. We tested all these presentations earlier, and we tested all of the PowerPoint presentations. Sometimes they work, and unfortunately, sometimes they don't work. But we will upload Leonardo's presentation to YouTube, so you can watch it from there, starting this evening or so. And our apologies also to Leonardo for this. The next one is Leo from Kenya, and let me just check. Are you here, Leo? Yes, hello, Leo. So I will first present Leo, and then Leo will present his case. And Leo is from Kenya, and he's studying there in the vocational school, Kisumu National Polytechnic School, in the environmental program, and also part of the institution's environmental club. And they have a clean marketplace, and they also plant trees within that club. And I will now share your presentation in one moment. And share screen. Can you see the presentation?
Yeah, I'm able to see it.
Okay, all right. Just tell me when to switch to the next slide. And if we experience some very severe network problems, we can stop the presentation, and we can also upload a recorded presentation from you to the YouTube. But please go ahead, you can start your presentation.
Once again, I would like to thank you, Miss, for giving me this chance to talk to the world and letting them know that Kenya is also one of the nations that is also fighting against zero carbon emission. It's fighting against the climate change. As you know, I come from Kenya, which is the pride of Africa, and we are known in sports like rugby, tourism, and marathon. Today I'm going to talk about the climate change adaptation for net zero carbon emission, and I'm just going to talk about a little bit. Next page. So, climate change is one of the biggest complex development challenges of our time, where we are facing different issues, and these different issues we are facing in terms of controlling it and in terms of how it is affecting our environment. Its impacts, as you already know, is already visible, and the scientific evidence shows the problem is worsening fast, and it's already stretching the ability of human and natural system to adapt. In Kenya, most sensitive sectors of the economy, such as agriculture, in which it accounts the highest GDP of our nation, and we have forestry, energy production, health, internal security, are threatened by climate change, according to studies by the National Environmental Management Authority. an organization based in Kenya. I'm going to talk about how climate change is dealt with today and how it will have a direct bearing on human development prospects in future. Next page, please. Before I continue, we have to understand the term adaptation. And we know the term adaptation encompasses a broad range of responses that help governments, communities, and individuals cope with the impact of climate change. And how can we respond to the climate change? It requires action on two fronts. Number one, we have adaptation to the consequences of current and future climate change. And the second is mitigation of climate change by drastically reducing global greenhouse gas emission and avoiding future emissions in developing countries and ensuring carbon sinks like the rainforest are preserved. Adaptation can be the adjustment in economic, social, or natural system in response to actual or expected climate change to limit harmful consequences and exploit beneficial opportunities. Next page, please. Then, how can we adapt to the climate change? Working through an adaptation process will be different from communities, business, and public sectors organization. However, there is a generic adaptation process along with a number of tools and resources to support each sector. The adaptation process may consist of 5 stages to help get started with adaptation, understand, assess the impacts of current and future climate change, identify and prioritize the adaptation option to address key climate risk, help implement adaptation actions, evaluate, and continuously monitor and review the work. With these 5 steps, I'm sure the adaptation process can be able to be managed and can be able to work through so as to enhance zero carbon emissions. Next page, please.
You have 3 minutes left.
Next page, please. And number one, we start with getting started, in which we have the process, finding about the impacts of climate change, understanding why the impacts of climate change matter, raising awareness, and tackling next steps. Next page, please. The second step, we had understand the impacts of climate change. And the process in this stage includes learning about past climate trends and future projection, understanding how your place, assets, services, or priorities have been affected by severe weather events in the past, and considering how your place, assets, services, or priorities might be affected as our climate continues to change. Next page, please. Now, the third step was identify and prioritize action, which includes establishing a vision for climate-ready future, identify the most significant climate risk, and identifying existing adaptation options. And the last is examining what further action is needed. Next page, please. The fourth action is to take action. And the stage process includes partnership, working with and leadership, collecting and presenting your adaptation action, building adaptive capacity, implementing on the ground action, and telling them the information about the policy. Next page, please. The fifth step, which is the last step, was monitor, review, and evaluate. And the process includes monitoring and reporting progress, reviewing regularly, reflecting on what has worked and why. Then the last is evaluating the outcomes and the possible impacts from the project or the policy. Next page, please. Climate change action plan. through the National Environmental Management Authority, there is the first change action plan is emission reduction, in which we have renewable energy and efficiency, which we have to implement the use of renewable energy, and through transportation, which we have to control the emission of carbon by the introduction of electric cars, and through waste management is through proper waste management, proper disposal, and proper ways of handling waste. Through industrial sources is how the industries can manage their waste, how the industry can control the emission of carbon in the environment. And we have all other emission reductions. Next page, please. Adaptation to climate change. The adaptation already impacting communities and commerce, seasonal uncertainties, water concern, habitat and ecosystem changes, health and public safety, resource industry sectors impacted. The do-thing approach will result in greater cost, vulnerability and risk, which will be risk assessment to identify vulnerabilities and priority actions, climate-proof development decision, strengthen measures to protect coastal areas, adaptive management of national resources. Next page, please.
And I will give you 1 minute.
Through the action plan, we have community engagement, where we have to promote education. We share the responsibilities and also supporting the development communities based on engagement, and also encouraging beneficial individual action. Next page, please. Conclusion. Scientific evidence on climate change and its impact is conclusive. Climate change is a concentration problem as well as an emission problem, and both mitigation and adaptation is needed in an effective. And to conclude this, we have to introduce the the use of 3 R's, which is reduce, reuse, recycle, and reabsorb. Next question. Next page, please. I think my presentation comes to an end. And once more, thank you for allowing me to participate in the conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. Yes, very, very good insights. And again, a call to action. So there is things that each of us can do to fight climate change and to adapt to it. Thank you very much, Leo. Then next in the program, we have a student from Japan. We have Ryusuke Inouchi, and he's studying at the Faculty of Textile Science and Technology at Shinshu University in the Nagano Prefecture. So please go ahead.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, it is in presentation mode now. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for your introduction. Hello everyone. I'm Ryosuke Inochi. I'm a student at Faculty of Textile Science and Technology, Shinshu University. Today's presentation is titled Local Industries and Climate Change in Weather. Today, I will present the following. First, where is Ueda? Ueda is a city in eastern central Nagano Prefecture. This is Ueda Castle, a symbol of weather. Ueda is located at an altitude of 450 meters above sea level and is a basin. So weather has significant difference in temperature between day and night, summer and winter. In addition, weather has weather has many sunny days, and second, lowest precipitation in Japan. But see the graph on the right. It is annual average temperature for the last 40 years in weather. As you can see, in recent years, temperatures in weather have been risen. So I think that various local industries may be affected by this temperature rise. Several members of my faculty at Shinshu University decided to investigate the effect of climate change on local industries. These four are subject of the investigation. I was responsible for traditional crafts. From here, I briefly describe the result of my members' investigation. The first is result of the investigation of sake. Sake is Japanese rice wine. We interviewed the two breweries as a result. They both said that the amount of investment in refrigeration equipment to cool the rice and the electricity bill are increasing. Next, result of investigation of crops cultivation. Apple and grape are representative crops of weather. So we interviewed apple orchard and vineyard. As a result, they said the number of cases of heat-related illness and natural disasters is increasing. So we are taking measures to change the stronger varieties. Next, result of investigation of festival. Japanese people love cherry blossoms and held cherry blossom during party in spring. In weather, many tourists visit Weather Castle for the cherry blossom festival. So we interviewed the Weather City office, which manages the festival. As a result, he said the timing of cherry blossom blooming is fluctuating. This may affect the period of the festival and the number of visitors. From here, I describe the result of my investigations. Weather has long been famous for its sericulture industry. Today, the silk fabric called Weather Tsumugi, designated as a traditional craft, I interviewed Koibai Tsumugi workshop. Koibai Tsumugi workshop does dyeing, warping, weaving, and making into products such as a wallet. One of the features of the workshop is that it offers products dyeing with weather specialties, such as discolored barks of apples. It produces uniquely gentle colors. This is dyed with apple barks. As a result of the interview, the good point is that water pipes don't freeze in the winter due to the temperature rise. But the bad point is that dyeing solution is difficult to cook. In this workshop, they adapt by changing the time allocation of the work. In addition, an interesting initiative was contributing to the SDGs through local industry. In summary, the results are as follows. In conclusion, we found that various local industries at weather are affected by climate change. Some parts are adapting, but burdens seems to be too much. The common burden is the cost of electricity. Higher outside temperatures make it difficult for something to cool. And then, increased use of cooling equipment and much electricity consumption to cool them. Finally, a lot of electricity will be needed. But I think it is also an opportunity to convert energy to clean energy. Do you remember the characteristics of weather's climate? Weather has many sunny days and second lowest precipitation in Japan. So weather is very suitable for solar power generation. It is expected that the extra electricity needed can be generated by solar power. And then it can be both mitigation and adaptation. Thank you for listening. Please come to weather and experience local industries. If you contact me, you send message at this email address. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruska, very much for your interesting presentation with lots of different things that that can be done to adapt to climate change. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next presenter is also from Japan, Ryota Yokoyama from the Tottori University of Environmental Studies. So please, Ryota, the floor is yours.
Sure. Thank you for introducing me. Okay, can you hear me? Is that okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm giving presentation titled Environmental Education for Reconnecting Relationships Between Human and the Environment in Agriculture. I'm honored to join this conference today, but I have only 6 minutes for my presentation, so unfortunately I don't have time to describe all slides. So please watch my presentation on YouTube later, or I'm happy to answer if you have any questions on podcasts later. So let's get started. Next slide, please. First, I'm a Ryota Yokoyama, a university student majoring in environmental studies. My study is about environment education and agriculture. Next slide, please. Today's table is here. And next slide, please. Introduction. Because of climate change and more places will suffer from droughts, flooding, etc. Also, the world population explosion will be a big burden on the environment. So then, it is likely that traditional agriculture is no longer working, and also hunger risk is rising. As a result, food war could erupt, and food security will be at the brink. Next slide, please. So when looking at the agricultural condition in Japan, actually there are a lot of challenges like shortage taxes, like decreasing birth rate and aging society, etc. Also, food self-sufficiency rate was only 38% in 2021. In short, agriculture in Japan is at the brink. Next slide, please. So as a result, because of the decline of agriculture, we will lose beauty of landscape, biodiversity, and various functions like dams, water resources. Also, the problem of food insecurity is becoming more and more serious. Next slide, please. So then we need to protect domestic or local agriculture by promoting local production for local consumption. In other words, we need to protect agriculture in communities and make consensus agreements. But how? How to incentivize people in communities? In my hypothesis, education has the power. Also, sustainable tourism has the same power as well. The power will change the society. Next slide, please. I am giving presentation based on press study that I conducted in Kamikatsu, Tokushima last summer. So next slide, please. The town is famous for zero waste, which belongs since 2002. Speaking about the zero waste project, residents must separate waste into 45 types by themselves. I wonder, it is possible by residents voluntarily. If they have consensus agreement on this project, what roles education play? So ways of my research are semi-structured interviews to local people, and also at school in the town, and examining all. I'm skipping some slides until my study and perspective from here. Sorry about that. So next slide, please. This slide is about the Kamikatsu Elementary School and Junior High School. Next slide, please. Also, this slide is about ecotourism kamikaze. Next slide, please. And the result of interviews. And next slide, please. And examination. And next slide, please. Same examination. Next slide, please. So from here, here comes my study and perspective. Local environment education, LLE, which is environment education, mixed local education, have power to change the society. The education nurtures civic pride and the sense of the environment. Also, it creates a ripple effect or spread sense of value in eco-friendly lifestyle. For example, center of circle are colored green, like children change their mindset. Then people like parents change their mindset as well. And gradually the ripple effect develops to the community and be power of changing the society. More people have interest in agriculture or the environment. Next slide, please. So in my theory, process of developing consensus agreement and locals can be explained in a theory of dialectic. Local people from outside, like tourists, interact with each other and creates new perspectives. And keep on. This activity leads to consensus agreements or local development. Also, if some tourists get fascinated in communities through tourism or the education, more people move to local area from city. In this way, local can tackle local decline and also decline of agriculture. That is hopeful in my opinion. Next slide, please. When showing my study by triangle, here it is. I study with focusing on relationships with subject and objects. To make outcome, I focus on tools, communities, or also in this triangle. So next slide, please. So in my study, outcomes is to reconnect our relationship with the environment and agriculture between human and between environment and agriculture, also human, by using LEE, local environment education. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, using local environment education as a tool to change the society norm. Students and tourists learn agriculture and get interested through local environment education, like agriculture experience. This education nurtures civic pride and also incentivizes people to protect the environment and agriculture in Japan, especially in communities. So the education creates consensus agreements and ripple effects, and gradually change the society in the long run. So I'm studying and examining the effect by action research from now on. The purpose of my study is to make communities or region better or management better. Next slide, please. Here's a reference. So thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I will answer them later on Podras. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryota, very much for your presentation. Very important issues included there as well. I think we will go straight to the last presenter, so we can almost be on time. Our last presenter is Morgan Janovic. She's a board member, partnership coordinator at Green Rev Institute, and the coordinator of Future Food for Climate Coalition. So go ahead, Morgan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be today with you. My name is Morgan Janovic. I'm a partnership coordinator of Green Rev Institute, the initiator of the Future Food for Climate Coalition. Green Rev Institute is a think tank based in Poland that works towards a sustainable food system transition. We're the members of 7 international coalitions. We're also accredited next to the UNEP. I will present to you the topic about sustainable food system, which is the legislation for the broken food system. Green Rev Institute connects the dots between climate, biodiversity, human and animal rights. We base our activities on the partnership and cooperation, systemic activities, and the involvement of youth. Green Red Institute initiated the Future Food for Climate Coalition that consists of 76 organizations from Poland and Ukraine. It is the very first coalition in Poland that works towards a sustainable food system. Sustainable food system law is the initiative that will be presented by the European Commission in the third quarter of this year of 2023. A sustainable food system law includes the following pillars: sustainable food procurements, food waste, and sustainable labeling. The development of the sustainable food system law included a public consultation conducted by the European Commission, which took place last year in July 2022. As Green Red Institute and Future Food for Climate, we have mobilized and engaged experts, activists, and civil society organizations in the consultation that will have a direct impact on the shape of the final document. And afterwards, in September 2022, there was another opportunity to share the opinion about what should be included in the sustainable food system law. But the question is, why do we need sustainable food system law? Well, the answer is because the current system is the source of the climate crisis, biodiversity loss, health crisis, among others. Animal agriculture is the source of 14.5% of the global anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions. If we switch to a vegetarian or vegan diet at the EU level, then greenhouse gas emissions would decrease by up to 70%. We also need to shift the responsibility from the consumer side to the decision-making and local government side. So currently, the topic of the food system transition is being highly omitted in the public debate. However, we will not be able to counter today's as well as future's challenges without the food system change. The European Commission, in its recent working document on food security, pointed out that food environment are shaped by policymakers and business mainly. Animal agriculture sector is responsible for 78% of biodiversity loss on land in Europe. At the same time, looking at the broken system, we see that 3.1 billion people worldwide don't have access to the healthy and nutritious food. The adaptation of the certain measures within the farm to fork strategy and sustainable food system law gives us the opportunity to shift away from the non-sustainable polluting animal agriculture towards plant-based. And compared to previous years, there has never been more attention around the food system at the EU level than today. But of course, we have to keep in our minds, we have to be aware that business as usual will be present, certainly much more before the elections in the European Union in the next year. So in March last year, 2022, the link between animal welfare, environment, and sustainable development has been noticed by United Nations Environment Assembly, when during the 5th session of the United Nations Environment Assembly in Nairobi, the Nexus resolution was adopted. And it is significant in the way that it recognizes the link between animal welfare, environment, and sustainable development, and points out the need for a holistic approach. As Green Red Institute, we strongly believe that there's no future without the youth, and there's no debate without our involvement, participation, and implementation of changes. And this is why I wanted to present to you the pilotage project, Green Advocacy Academy, that is an example of how we can progress and bring the real change. So the project is co-funded by the European Union. The project brings together the youth aged 14-24 from Finland and Poland. It consists of 7 workshops and study visit to the European Parliament and the participation in the debate with the members of the European Parliament. So during those workshops, more than 30 young people are being introduced to the importance of advocacy activities, of European Green Deal, including farm to fork strategy and sustainable food system framework. Together with inspiring experts, activists, and representatives of organizations, we show a critical view on the current food system. To sum up, Green Rights Institute and Future Food for Climate are engaging all actors in the debate about food system transition through open letters, calls to action, roundtables, debates, expert panels, closed meetings, constantly engaging with new initiatives and organizations through partnership, cooperation, and inclusion. We're also reaching out through involvement in mainstream events and publications full of data, experts that are open for everyone, and everything to raise awareness and to bring the topic of food system transition to the public debate. We have to be aware that of the fact that meat, dairy, and egg sector are polluters and the source of today's and future crisis. The sustainable food system is plant-based. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Morgan, very much for your punctual presentation and very interesting presentation also. We had some discussions about food also yesterday and in the YouTube channel also from yesterday, and this kind of like contributes and continues from that. So thank you very much. That is all the presentations that we have. And next I will invite my colleague from Karelia University of Applied Sciences, Lasse Okkonen, who's a principal lecturer there in Energy and Environmental Engineering, to provide us a short wrap-up of what has been discussed today. So welcome, Lasse, and the floor is yours. You have 10 minutes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Kaija, and thank you everyone for really interesting presentations. And it's my pleasure to wrap up and summarize some points from these presentations. So as we have heard, there needs to be quite an extensive and broad educational knowledge on climate change and on understanding its impacts in different regions and in different types of systems. These presentations from the perspectives of agriculture, food production, local tourism, also food industry, crafting industry, textile industry. They all gave us an idea on how climate change is affecting people, communities, and businesses. And referring to Leo Kompare's presentation on how this is a complex phenomena, and we need to have a strategy to adapt. There was a really valuable lessons on how this can be done in different steps. There needs to be adjustment practices, limiting of harmful impacts, and also capturing of opportunities that can be found from the adaptation. On the other hand, we need to have strategies on really locally tailored manner and also early warning systems, like were mentioned in Professor Kalaba's presentation. These phenomena are quite complex, and there needs to be understanding on system interdependencies and how these systems are interrelated to each other. I think that presentation from Africa and how the temperature pests and impacts on the livestock and all the way to the human economy and the household's future security, how they are interdependent. So there needs to be also systematic solutions. And I was really happy to hear different strategies and solutions for the adaptation. The restoration practices in nature ecosystems and agroecology systems, organic farming systems, and also habitat restoration in ocean environments. They are all really interesting and novel practices. So we can utilize and use the ecosystem's capacity to restore and renew activities and operate in a climate smart manner even if it's Finnish forestry or agriculture in drought areas or in different types of environments. So youth is in key role in advocacy work, as Marianela Pepe and Brigitta Kandavan presented. This advocacy work is an essential part. And I was happy to hear also about the Green Advocacy Academy that is then connected to the more generic European policy processes. In adaptation, we need to have regenerative business models. And there were several examples of how businesses can be regenerative. There can be diversified livelihoods and value added to agricultural products to make them locally sustainable products, or in sake industry, utilizing the local culture, tradition, and sustainable practices that are based on the natural and cultural heritage. So we can look back also and utilize different valuable cultural heritages and practices to find adaptation strategies, and also connect the development to the sustainable development goals to consider the impact in a broader and in a comprehensive manner. The regenerative practices in local tourisms are really important, and they also provide visitors opportunity to experience the local culture and heritage, and also create their own positive impact. So as the regenerative idea is to leave things better behind that can be practiced in several sectors. Tourists can provide valuable insights to local communities, and they can also attend in the local environmental education and dialogue, like mentioned in Ryota Yokohama's presentation. These regenerative practices, they are also related to the economy. So this kind of new climate economy ideas and how businesses are affected by climate change and its costs, they were presented, for instance, by Ryosuke Inuchi in the cases of traditional crafts and silk fabrics and several sectors. So this requires businesses to consider the models that are then applicable to changing circumstances. Altogether, I would say that this session brought a really broad perspective and really comprehensive perspective on the topic of adaptation to climate change. How it's about education and understanding, how it's about finding strategies for adaptation, how it's about solutions for restoration and regeneration, how it's about advocacy and collaboration together to make the change. So thank you for all these presentations, and I hope that there is a really active discussion from these different perspectives in the Padlet, so that perhaps you can share and learn together, and perhaps exchange practices that are then valuable in different parts of the globe. So thank you, Kaija, for providing me this opportunity to comment and wrap up. It was my pleasure, and I learned a lot this morning here in Finland. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lasse. Very nice wrap up and a conclusion, kind of like pulling it all together to make it a more concrete, a more cohesive topic for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Then it is time for our closing remarks. The closing remarks will be given by Kazuhiro Fujimura, who is the ambassador of Japan to Finland. So please, Mr. Fujimura, the floor is yours.
こんばんは、長野の皆さん。Hyvää päivää to Karelia and all of Finland. Hello everyone across the world. 聞こえますか？大丈夫ですか？ I am Fujimura Kazuhiro, Ambassador of Japan to Finland. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. On the occasion of the closing of the International Zero Carbon Conference 2023, I would like to say a few words. First of all, I would like to pay tribute to Nagano Prefecture Government, Karelia University of Applied Sciences, University of Eastern Finland, and ENO SchoolNet Association for your great efforts in organizing this conference. And I wish to express my appreciation to all for your insightful keynote speeches and presentations at the conference. Today, climate change and environmental issues are one of the most serious challenges facing us in the world. Mitigation and adaptation, the keywords set out for each day of the conference, are sine qua non conditions for us to address these clear and present dangers to the flora and fauna on the planet and to the humanity. I believe that all the participants have gained a lot of takeaways from this two-day event. In addition, through these crash course meetings, I feel convinced that the aim of this conference to connect people from Nagano Prefecture and North Karelia, Republic of Finland, and from all over the world to learn together about climate change and environmental issues facing humanity, to consider solutions together and to trigger action, has been successfully achieved. So let me say to you all, congratulations. I conclude my address by expressing my sincere hope that the participants of this International Zero Carbon Conference 2023 will make full use of the outcomes of this event and carry the torch as a leaders towards zero carbon down the road, and that Japan and Finland make differences in the world. どうもありがとうございました。Kiitos ja paljon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Fujimura, for your kind words. I especially liked you referring to the conference as a crash course. I will definitely start using that because that is short introductions to some issues. Crash course is a very good term to use. Thank you very much. Before we close the whole conference, I have a few things that I would like to remind you about and to say to all of you in the audience, and also in for the speakers. But first, I will address all of the audience about the Padlet. I will remind you about that, and then also we have another issue as well. So here is the Padlet again for today. You are free to keep commenting, asking questions, and so on. And then also we have another Padlet for you. The link will be posted to you. We are planning to have meetups with everybody who is interested in this topic, whether they have been presenters in this event or whether they are students who are listening, or anybody who is interested in climate activities and so on. We have a Padlet for it already where you can put your ideas in, and we will have a meetup on March the 22nd. It's a Wednesday. It's at 10 o'clock Finnish time, 9 p.m. Japanese time, and then according to your time zone, of course, changing or depending on that. And then the other one will be in April, just before the Earth Day. So Earth Day is April 22nd. So on April 21st, Friday, we will have another meetup. And don't be alarmed that there's a 10 o'clock Finland and 11 o'clock Finland, and it's 5 o'clock in Japan. We changed to the summertime between March and April. So that's why there is a 1 hour bigger difference with the Japanese time. But all of you are welcome to join these. Maybe we will start calling them crash courses. The idea is that we would have short introductions from different students, from different experts, professionals who are already working in the field of climate change and climate activities, to give short presentations about what they are doing in their own countries. So everybody is welcome to join in this Padlet and these meetings. We will send information about this next week at the same time that we will publish the presentations with subtitles on ENO's YouTube channel. So you will be receiving email from us with more details next week. Then we had another thing that we wanted to do. After we finish here, we will have a 5-minute break. And if anybody is interested in staying back in the Zoom to discuss with us, most of the presenters will be also available in that session, discuss more freely. You are welcome to stay back in Zoom for the 5-minute break, and then you can be promoted to panelists so we can have a discussion. And before we go there, I would like to say thank you again, a very big thank you for all the presenters and also to all of the audience who have been listening to the presentations. Those who are in the panelist section, I would like all of you to switch on your cameras so we can take a group picture. And after that, we will switch off the live stream and the recording. And then I will still need to find the correct place to. Okay, let's wait for Anni to close the curtain. Okay, and then how do you say cheers or smile or cheese in Japanese? You are muted, Tomoko.
Yeah, we say cheese. Hi, cheese.
Okay, so
Japanese.
Cheese. Okay, I hope I got some pictures. But thank you again. I will switch off the live stream, and Tomoko or her crew will stop the recording. It's now 12:15, so we will have a 5-minute break, and then anybody who is interested in staying back for a bit for discussion, whether you are in the audience or in the panelists, you are welcome to stay. So we will continue at 20 past.